Hello and
Yeah.
welcome to Whining with Wine. I'm Matt Bowden. I'm here. We've got James Has here, and we're going to have a glass of wine, James and the vodka. We're going to sit and have some chats with you and see what's going on in our worlds. So first of all, hi, James.
Hey, Matt, how you? Good to see you, man. After all these years, when was the last time? Last Edinburgh Fringe?
It was the last Edinburgh Fringe. I believe the last time I saw you, you were sort of moving in a snakish direction down from City Cafe after we had quite a good evening. A lot of cars.
That was all courtesy of the City Cafe, mate. The City Cafe has got a lot to answer for. You ask anybody that we know, it's got hell of a lot to answer for, that place.
I completely agree. And the thing is, it's a pretty shitty bar with okay service, okay food. But the place is the epicenter of the street performance community during the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yeah, I've got an idea as to why that's where everybody congregates. Because many years ago, JP and Tim Motley and Eli the Cowboy saw that there's pool played there, and they just had the flat next door, just up the road from it. Yeah. And they saw, all right, let's go in there. And then because we've got the balcony, everybody else in our community saw them, said, oh, look, there's Japes and the guys down there. And then everybody just congregated down there, and that just became the hangout place.
So James, just before we begin, can I get you just to say a little bit about yourself, your career,
sure.
Now, and then I'm going to ask some more probing questions later.
All right, okay. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is James Hethler, or James on the street. I'm a street performing busking professional magician since 1997. I was inspired by Nick Nicholas and then taught by Gazzo, two of the giants whose shoulders I stand upon. And that wouldn't, if it weren't for those guys, I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now. So kudos and hats off to the inspiration I got from Nick, who's inspired a lot of people, and also Gazzo for the masterclass that I had very shortly after that. And in the past 20 years, sorry, carry on.
That was Nick Nicholas, yes?
Yeah, Nick Nicholas. He's inspired a hell of a lot of people. Tony Roberts, for one, who we all know. And there are others, but I can't remember them offhand. But in the past 20 years, I've been married. I was divorced and married again, and separated again. I like wedding cake, Matt. I like wedding cake.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who'll empathise with you.
And what the past 20 years what I've been doing has provided me with is a lifestyle rather than a massive bank balance. You know, money comes and goes, right?
Yeah, well, as a street performer, it definitely does.
Yeah, but the memories are always there.
Yeah.
So I'm chuffed to bits in regard of, I'm always happy. I'm always pleased that I learned what I did. And basically, I do the cups and balls. 3 cups, 3 balls, and I've got a set show that's been set now for the past however many years. I don't know, 6, 7 years, maybe 10 years. Start off with the build, which is a coin trick or coin routine, then a card trick, then a balloon swallow, then the cups and balls. Obviously, just using the formula that we all know. And and I spent 9 years in Australia, having been married to a beautiful Australian woman. Didn't work out, unfortunately. Moved from Adelaide then to Brisbane, and then after 3 years in Brisbane, decided to come back to Scotland. And I'm now living in Newton Grange with Pop.
Oh, you live with Pop?
Yeah, Pop. Yeah, good old Pop. Yeah, he's a very well known guy, and he's very well loved. So
Pop is, if anyone doesn't know, Pop is a Scottish giant balloon man who is, he's a big cuddly bear. I love the man, I've never seen him lose his temper, bar once, when I tried to set a show up very, very close to his balloon stall, which is Belginger Road, and he was quite a scary character. He's a cuddly guy, but when you're annoyed, he goes flush in the face, and he looks like a Viking about to pillage.
Yeah,
so
that's one way of putting it.
Yes. So something that interests me is with street shows, a lot of our street shows, me included, most people around the world, what people do is, unlike stand-up, unlike a lot of the big circuses, what people tend to do is they tend to get a routine, and then they'll stick with that routine for majority of their lifetime. I'm the same. Majority of us are exactly the same. And I'm just wondering, why is that? Why do we find in our field there's less turnover of creative material?
That's a good point. That's something that's been asked of me by people who I know in family, like my mother and so on. And they say, well,
was it phrased in the way of, why do you always do the same shit?
The question is, why change your show? Then you have something different. But the thing is, it'll still be me that's doing it. Whether I get out of a straight jacket, whether I play with the cups, or whether if I was younger to learn to unicycle and juggle, it would still be me doing it. And I'd still be out there entertaining with people on the street and creating the lifestyle in and around it. But so my thoughts, Matt, probably the same as yourself, I would imagine, is stick with what works, make it better, because every show you do is different. Just like putting your finger in a moving river, the same spot, same time, same place, but it's different, because the audience has changed. And if you stick at what you're doing, then what you do becomes even tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And you can't extricate yourself from it if you're doing an indoor show or doing cabaret or something like that. You don't just bring your outdoor show onto the street. But your street show, apart from being your moneymaker, which is not the main reason, I appreciate that, but it's still germane. And you just make it better and better and better and better. You pick up things, and if you keep on changing it, it might not get it better. You're still on that curve that's never going anywhere.
Do you think it's the innate chaos that we work in? So because every time we go and try and do a show, when we go to those squares, there's the different people, there's different environments. There'll be a drunk who'll come in and get his cock out in the middle of the show. Or there's all these different kind of elements that you don't have to deal with in a piece of stage work or even in a piece of stand-up. So you have to be able to deal with thousands of different variables. So maybe that's why a lot of street performers tend to get for a really solid skeleton of a show, and then they stick with that, and then the rest of it is just trying to learn the active responses, the way that you can deal with a situation as it arises.
Yeah, can you imagine if you change your routines all the time, then the core wouldn't be the core, and then you'd be losing all the other stuff that could go on around because you're trying to focus on the new material. I'm not saying don't create a new piece of material with whatever prop or stand up or whatever you want to do. I'm not saying don't do that. But the core material, the core of what you do is the core of what you do. And then because you can do that, not in your sleep because you don't want to phone it in, all the other stuff you can pick up on. And I don't think that can happen unless you've got a strong core. And a strong core means doing the same stuff time and time again. There are others.
Instinctual.
Yeah. And there are people, look at Gaz, one of the best street performers with the cups. I mean, he inspired 100%. So many people. Yes. And he's now not doing the cups on a regular basis, as far as I know from Edinburgh Fringe last year, and he's doing something different. But it's still him, and nobody can take what he does because plagiarism's a huge thing in our business, which we'll get onto at another point. But some people do change what they do, but it's still inherently the same character that they play. Yeah. So but it certainly is bloody chaos. I mean, you've had so many things happen, I'm sure. You have many run-ins with the authorities.
Yes, I mean, one of the things I really love about the street is the chaos. I love the idea that at any moment something random can happen, and you get to show the audience something that's quite real in those moments. And so I've as much as possible tried to get the show out of the way of the moments and tried to facilitate those moments. And one of the best moments you can ever have is having an authority come and lean on you and try and use inferred authority. And I say inferred because a lot of the time when people in authority come to deal with you, they don't have the authority to deal with you, but they've been told to, and they feel like they should, and you're a low status character. And it seems in their sense of what's right and wrong that you should be fucked off immediately. But then as soon as they start talking to you, as soon as the audience sees this, they would feel that a lot of the time they would acquiesce to their request because of the inferred authority, and you don't. And it's not just you go, fuck you, but you actually have an articulate, reasoned response. Yeah. And you at the same time manage to communicate to everyone else the dynamic that's going on and your position. I had this moment years ago that really affirmed to me why I do what I do. It really was a special moment from what was a horrible moment. There's a video around for it, which I will post on my feed later on if anyone would like to see. I was working on the South Bank, and so the South Bank set up a licensing system on the whole of the stretch of the South Bank, and I was pretty annoyed with their licensing system. It's a public space. People should be able to use it freely, blah, 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 blah. So I went in front of their licensing department office, and I opened up a pitch and started doing shows there, refusing to leave. I said, no, this is a public place. I'm not creating any problems. If you want me to leave, go to court, get an injunction, and prove I have a negative effect on the area. That's how it works in the UK with public areas. And so what happened was, during the show, 5 security guards come and start telling me I have to go. I say no. And one of them then walks straight up to my amp and begins to pick my amp up. And I say, don't. And as I go like that to say don't, a guy's behind me gets me in a headlock. And he's trying to choke me. Yeah, this is actually a full contact moment. And so he's trying to choke me out. And I try and get him off my back. I can't get him off my back. And at that point, 2 other guys grab my arms. And so now I've got 1 guy on my throat, 2 guys on my arms, and I think, what the fuck can I do here? If they take me to ground, this is going to be one of those really sad videos where you watch a street performer get fucked by the police. And I didn't want that. I wanted to win. I wanted to show people that if you're reasonable, you can win through these situations. So I looked around and I thought, dynamic evaluation, what can I do in this moment? Yeah. And I saw that I was right next to the river, and the railings for the river were about 15 feet away from me. And so I turn around and I frog march over to the fence with these guys on my arm, the guy on my back. I grab onto the fence and I go, are you ready, guys? Because you're coming in with me. And I begin to lift myself over the fence. And at that point, as I'm doing that, they all panic, release me, and scarper and go every direction, like pepper in water when soap's put in there. They literally go, Vroom. And as soon as they did that, without even a second thought, I turned around, walked center stage and said, now everyone, shall we continue the show? And of course, I have 200 people watching me. They all cheer and go mad. The security guards, they get the fuck out of there because they realise we can't assault them again without looking truly brutal. And after that, I went to the police. I registered for an assault claim. They went, they interviewed all the guys. Who was pretty sure they were guilty. Before it went to court, I dropped charges, and luckily no one has ever been grabbed there again. And that's not really the reason I say it. The reason I say it is there was a child, my child volunteer, and as the guys grabbed me, the child volunteer goes back to their parents, his parents. And he's obviously quite upset. This funny man he's been enjoying his time with is just getting manhandled. Now, I saw the parents and the family the next day, and I came up to them and said, oh, I'm really sorry about what happened the other day. And they turned around to me and said, oh, no, don't be sorry. We thought what happened yesterday was really valuable. We sat with Timothy, their son, and we had a really big, long conversation about why people do things and about what people stand for and about why people do things in society. And we really believe that was a moment where he really learned a lot about what people do.
So the parents actually regarded the whole thing as a learning experience for the youngster, or something that they could teach the youngster, something they could show to the kid, to the Timothy, which he'll carry with him for a long time, if not forever.
Exactly, and that's the best thing you can hope for. JP has this line where he says, you change the world 300 people at a time. And I really believe that, I really do. Yeah,
it is a street, working on the street is, I find it's not like a job. Some people say to me, well, for example, a unicyclist, he could get up on that unicycle and juggle those clubs within 5 minutes. Yeah, he could, but nobody would care. And there would be nobody there to watch. It's like you don't watch the end of a film at the beginning, unless it's Dennis Quaid on DOA, which is another film altogether. But you don't watch the end of the film at the beginning because you've got to take people on a journey. You've got to take people on a journey, and that's what a street show does. A good street performer takes people on a journey. They start out with absolutely nothing. They're good salespeople as well, for want of a better expression. They start off with nothing, just an empty space, and then they they get themselves noticed, attract a crowd, make that crowd an audience, do the meat of the show, then bottle, and then finale, then hack, keeping up a litany or a diatribe of stuff to keep people laughing, just because, and the show hasn't stopped till the last penny's dropped. And it's a very valuable, I think it's an extremely valuable part of society. When I first started, I had no clue. I was arrogant enough to think, well, shit, I've done cabaret before, I've done close-up magic before, so I could do this. I didn't.
Oh, you're one of them. I love to see nowadays. You see cabaret performers come, and the cabaret performers because they have good skills and great costumes, and then you watch them die. You watch them die horribly. I think there's a big thing that people mistake when they're watching shows is they think the trick is the show, And
No.
the trick is it's an athletic feat, but they're not watching it for the athletic feat. They're watching it for the entertainment. They want to be entertained. They want to be engaged. They want a suspension of disbelief in that moment. That's why I say that the tennis racket isn't an impressive trick if you watch it with one person watching you. But with 300 people watching you, that collective intent for joy cushions the kind of crapness of it, you know?
And that's what you're doing, Matt. For example, when you do that, it's not, as you say, it's not the trick. It's the fact that you can spin off on so many different things because you've got your core as well. You can spin off and do so many different things to create that energy. How I see it ultimately is, you could say it's like sex to some degree. You build up this energy, and then you've got the climax. That's it. You're trying to corral this energy from the group of people and trying to draw more people into that energy, and you build that energy up, and it gets tense and goes. And that's what happens. And to be able to be in the middle of that, to learn to do that, you're going to fail a hell of a lot of times when you first start out. If you think about starting out. But that's something that comes just after years and years of doing it.
Well, I said this in a video. I said this in a video a few days ago. You were, in fact, one of the reasons that I developed further. I remember, I remember the South Bank many years ago. You actually remember this as well now. I was at the side of the show doing contact juggling. I was doing a half circle, 10-minute show, and I was trying to gather a crowd. And you walked out and banged on top of the box and went, "Don't watch a guy just doing a trick and saying, 'Yeah, I have a show. I've designed a show. Come and watch a proper piece of street theatre.'"
All right,
and,
okay.
Well, that was a very positive thing for me. It didn't feel like it at the time. It felt horrible at the time.
How long ago would that have been? Because I can't remember that.
That's 13, 14 years ago. This is when I was really beginning, you know.
I must have been, because I'm not saying I've got better, well, after many years of doing it, making own assumptions, right? But I must have been such an arrogant prick then, because I'd only been in about 7 years at the time.
You were an arrogant prick, but you were a correct arrogant prick, you know. And it hurt. You know, it hurt at first. Well, we all soften as we get older, even Melvin.
Yeah, well,
even Melvin. Melvin is a friend we all have, a guy who works on pitch, who is he's a legend, and he's a difficult character to really get close to, and he's not a gentle creature. He's a prickly guy, but he's also got heart of gold. I mean, I had some things happen to me a few years ago where I was really ill, and he called me every single day, went, "Oh, you all right, mate? Are you okay?" But then when you see him on pitch, he'll say, "Take a fucking year off."
Yeah. Because some people, not everybody, but some people are really protectionists around around the pitch. There's people that are pitch bitches, there are people that are protectionists, and then thankfully there are people, I think the majority, and they're all good guys, all good people, men and women. I'm not saying they're not, but there's some that actually do look towards your fellow performer to think, what can I do that could help them? Like, for example, during the Edinburgh Fringe, I don't need to do this, but during Fringe, I don't take the circle pitches, I take the alcoves. The reason for that is I can work the alcoves. The guy my mate who's got a big unicycle or a big show can't work the alcoves, so he works the big pitch. Because if I went in the draw for the big pitch, then that he might not get that show. He might not get that show.
This is one of the beautiful things about street performance and the community of street performers that you don't really get in a lot of other worlds. If you're in a business environment, you're in the jungle and you're hunting, and your hunt will be hunted. You know, you have to go for the jugular every single time. But street performers, you'll find that people will do things that are for the collective betterment of everybody. They will, a lot of the time, be reasonably selfless in the way they're doing. You know, there's enough there for everyone. So people could sit on a pitch and do 10 shows a day. But what you'll tend to find is a lot of the really good guys who are experienced, you'll go to a pitch and they'll be like, "Hey, come and cue with me, share with me."
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what Nick Nicholas did in 1997. He's I was ligging a one-man show. I'll tell you about that in a second. It's really freaking weird. I was ligging a one-man show in the Cupola Can, which is a restaurant down the bottom of Leith Walk, in 1997 during the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Lovely. Yeah,
it's a long time ago.
Especially back then. Was that when Leith had its real heroin days?
I wouldn't know, because I never did that. I never went there. I didn't see anything. My eyes weren't open to that, so I don't know.
Okay.
But what I do remember about that show, Paul Wilson, bless him, said He wrote a review in Opus magazine, a magic magazine written by JJ and Chris Powers at the time. Said it's the worst magic show he's ever seen, and he was right. It was a pile of hold on. I've got it here. It was a pile of shite.
Yes.
But the reason I mention it is because I saw Nick Nicholas. I saw this huge crowd of people, and then a melon being thrown in there, and this crowd just went absolutely nuts. Looked over, saw 3 cups, 6 oranges, and the cups and balls, and I thought I'd never seen the cups and balls on the street before. There's a bit of, it's an age old, one of the oldest tricks in the world. Yeah. And so I stuck around and thought, I'll watch his show. Then Tom Picard came on. He's living in Thailand at the moment. Tom Picard came on and did his show. It was great. And I went up and tipped him, but I wanted to see the other guy. I didn't know it was Nick Nicholas at the time. Yeah. So then I stood back and waited for Nick to build. And I didn't know what was going on. And Nick did his show and I went to tip him. And in the crossover between, because I realised now Tom and Nick were going back to back. This is 97 before the Street Entertainments team with Kathy Dick and Jenny were actually looking after it. And I said to him, would you mind if I come here tomorrow with some stuff and I can do a show? And Nick said, yep, fill your boots. And then Tom Picard said, he said, talk about protectionism. But Tom was just a bit of a curmudgeon, fair enough. Lovely guy. He said, so now you're a busker. Now you're going to take you're going to take the money from my pocket, the bread from my mouth. And Nick turned around and said, shut the fuck up. So he said, shut the fuck up, Tom. He's a young lad starting out. But the funny joke is that I'm actually older than Nick Nicholas. So that was my first foray into street in 1997.
Isn't it interesting that I hear those words and I can put them on faces now today? Those exact same words. I can imagine people on the pitches now today having those exact same responses. People going, come, join us. And other people going, fucking another person on the pitch, blocking up the queue, doesn't even have a fucking show.
Listen, we've got some people actually, I didn't realise people remarking. Nico, hi Nico, if you're still there. I saw something 2 or 3 years ago by someone said, you've got to see this guy's show, and a tall guy, very sanguine, very handsome, long hair, looked like, very powerful energy. And his finale was phenomenal. I won't go into it, but he did this thing with a finger ring. I've never seen anybody do it since. Hopefully nobody ever uses it. But he takes his ring off, right?
Yeah, well, they may do now.
Throws it up about, but it's years of his life. He throws it in there, and then he catches it on his finger. Phenomenal. So hi, Nico. Ian Dean's called me a miserable bastard.
Well, I have a confession to make. Murdo's on the feed. Hey, Murdo. I was in Leicester Square, and I think it's just an example of if you get someone on the wrong day, they can be a complete prick. And I was a complete prick in this story. So I just finished a really shit show, and then Murdo brought his music stuff on and went, oh, for fuck's sake, another fucking musician on the pitch. And the thing is, I'd never say that. My entire life, I've attempted to champion the open nature of street shows. I've attempted to champion the idea that it's accessible for everyone and that everyone can use it. And I think there's a beauty in that. And there's a real, the way I describe it is that on the street, culture grows through the cracks in the pavement. And so any old weed can grow as long as there's a crack there. And so it just shows you someone who has such lofty, high, good ideals can still be a complete piece of shit on the wrong day at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's something that we hear of people when we barrack people for walking away. People say you don't know what sort of day they've had. You don't be nasty. Don't be nasty to people. But sometimes, as well as yourself, sometimes we just snap. And I've snapped so many times. One time I snapped. I was hanging out with Sierra Minetti in Edinburgh many years ago. And she said to me, there's a couple of guys up there doing beatboxing and they're taking my spot. So I just marched up there, took my table down and bang, 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 tried to distract them and blow them out. As it turned out, that was actually their spot. So I had to eat crow for quite a few days and really apologise. But what came out of that was something wonderful, because one of the other guys, one of the beatboxers, was a guy called David Crow, I think. And he does something with a bass player. I can't remember his name at the moment. A phenomenal guy. I've seen him do his Is that
the guys who play the really funky stuff? You got the drummer and the bassist.
Yeah, he's got moustache.
Yeah, those guys are fucking killer.
Oh man, it's because what he did was you don't get to see this unless we work in the area that we are. He had it was when we had 20-minute spots in the alcoves, not half an hour, 20-minute spots, and he took to I think he was mic'd up. He had a mic, and you know what the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is like. There's thousands of people going up and down the mile, so it's not that challenging to get an edge. But he got his edge pretty quick, and he said, "Right, guys, this is pretty much what he said." He said, "Guys, ladies and gentlemen, I can't spend time getting you to acquiesce, getting you to do what in a nice possible way. I really want you to experience this the best possible way. So everybody now sit down." Apart from a couple of people, everybody sat down, and then he started, and that bass coming through the floor, as it were, connecting with it, just his whole psychology around it, and the very fact that he was like of the earth, if you know what I mean. Just wonderful energy, just right off the bat like that. And that was the guy that was barracking a few years prior to that because he was taking my friend's pitch. So didn't I look like the dick?
Yeah, well, we all have our moments. And I think that's something to remember when dealing with someone who's being a shit, is that maybe they're just having one of those moments. I've had arguments with people, and in that moment, it seems like the argument is never going to be solved. But you sleep on it, you meet up the next day, and suddenly the brain's had time. You're not defending yourself. They're not defending themselves anymore, and you can work through your problems. This is one of the reasons. Yeah, it is difficult. And that's one of the reasons why I try and get people to not roll over on the street. If people are giving you shit, if you've got problems with people, go and try and be as reasonable as you can, but deal with it. With them. Talk to them about it. Don't be a shrinking violet. They might tell you to go fuck yourself today, but tomorrow they'll come back with a slightly different attitude because no one wants to deal with shit. Everyone wants to have a happy life. We try and avoid conflict.
It's nice to be actually to be in cohesive conversation and discussion with somebody around something that is a sticking point. Because you might not, obviously, you might not agree, but then if you can come to a space where you can see the other person's compromise, and that works. I've looked at just a brief thing. Looked at a photograph here. This is, I don't know if you can see that. That's Covent Garden, St. James. That's James. That's which.
Yeah, if you hold it still, we're gonna have a better shot. There we go. I see it. Yeah.
That's
so
Kenny Lightfoot.
Kenny Lightfoot, card thrower,
card thrower. Myself on the other side. Lord Lucan, as his stage name is known.
Lord Lucan's that. I think I prefer that.
And Gary Stocker.
Oh, look how baby-faced Gary looks. He looks like a baby.
Yeah. And he's done quite a lot for himself as well. Just a nice memory. I'm just looking through some old photographs and found that, Look at that belly, eh? Look at that bloody belly.
You were a rotund character there, eh? You've done the opposite of what most people do. Most people a bit older and wider.
Yeah, but I'm out walking every morning.
Well, it's true. I say most people, they're going to get bigger. Gazzo's slowly expanding, I think, over the years.
Well, unless when one gets older, unless you start looking after yourself to a larger degree, things happen. Now, I was living in a flat. I was living in an apartment with James Martin. And we drank a shed load of Jim Beam and Coke. And because of the Coca-Cola, I got distended and I went up to 17 stone. And then I left Brisbane, came back to Scotland, and all that carried on walking. And it's an easy form of exercise as well, so it's pretty cool, But yeah, you can't let yourself go.
Who would you say is your favourite act to watch in the world and why?
Oh,
and let's leave Gazzo and Nick. Let's put them aside. They're your inspirations.
Yeah. Holy shit! The one, and there is a specific reason I like watching this guy is Pete Dobbin or Pete Anderson.
Oh yeah,
the guy in a kilt, juggles knives, does a Rubik's cube, and climbs a ladder. A freestanding ladder. Tricks wise, you would think, oh, so what? But it's how he does it and what he does specifically at the Royal Mile, because there's certain acoustics that allow him to do what he does. And I remember one time going past his show to go and get something to eat between doing shows, and I just went, no, I'm going to watch this because of the psychology he's got in it. I mean, the skills are phenomenal. The show is great. It's such a hoot, but then the underlying psychology, not to stand there and learn from it, just to let it melt in, if you know what I mean.
Why not? Why not learn from it? He's the.
Well, I do learn from it, but not steal it. That's what I'm saying.
But there's a difference between
phenomenal.
but you can watch something and you can understand its mechanism,
Yeah.
and you can figure out why it works, and then that makes your judgment when you're creating things far more powerful, far more. You get a lot more. I'm trying to pick the right word. You can adapt and deal with situations better with a good understanding of psychology. But I will say this: I don't think with Pete, it's not just psychology. He's really likable. He's really nice. He's really affable. He is
Hugely.
very quick, very clever. He's got a really nice way of speaking, and he always feels like he doesn't take himself really seriously, despite the fact that everybody is just gushing for him as he's doing it. He is one of the few guys. There's a sorry, mate. Just this last point. There's a few guys that I watch. One of them is Anthony Living Space, and another one, Pete Dobbing. That when I watch them and I really see them at their peak, they make me want to give up. You know.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Because you think, I worked so hard. I'm passionate. I think about this all the time. I love this. Yeah. This is my life's work, so to speak. And I still haven't created such a perfect product as what these guys have.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's interesting you mentioned Living Space. Yeah, you watch his show and that expression, that thought, I'm going to hang up my shit. There's absolutely no way I can get anywhere near as fucking good as this. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And he is. And Pepe in his day, obviously, as well.
Never saw him work. Never saw him work, fortunately.
Genius. Two of the massive geniuses in our community. But
Andy, there's a bit of a tutelage relationship there, as far as I know. That when Living Space was coming up, he was with Pepe, really good friends with Pepe. And as this world goes, what happens is you kind of get this unofficial tutelage. You get the older performers, and then they'll click with a younger performer. They hang out, they drink beer, they smoke, they do whatever. They chat all the time about work, what the work is, and naturally, the more experienced older guys' knowledge bleeds in to the younger guy's mind, and you get this kind of tutelage. You get this passing down of information.
Yeah,
which is
definitely
beautiful. One of the great reasons that I think that as a community we should always try and maintain queued pitches, because queued pitches give an opportunity for all the performers to mingle together and to talk together and to share stuff, and so those bonds can be made. Tutelism can be established.
And here's a question for you, Matt. You've probably heard this before. People saying, I want to get started in doing street. What do I do? What would you say to them?
I go out and do it. The only way to get good at doing street is by doing street. And I know that some people will say, go and do some courses, go and do this. If you want to do a course to acquire some skills, okay. If you want to do a course to kind of ramp up your writing, do that. But my argument would always be that the joy of the street is you have endless stage time. If you can go and find a quiet square somewhere, you can take as many chances as you want, and you can work over it as many times as you want and develop your product. So my thought would be split your time in half. Spend half of your time at a really busy pitch where you've got lots of people and you're queuing up and you're doing one show a day. But stay and watch every single show. Study the shows. Understand why they work. Understand what it is about it that makes these shows work. And then spend the other half of the time on a pitch on your own where you can do 3 or 4 or 5 shows a day. Try and get somewhere that's not particularly quick building, somewhere where you have to work to build a crowd. You have to, everything's a muscle. There's a thing I said in the video before. I remember the tall bike I used to have.
The tall bike, they look really quite weird. Aye.
Exactly. It was an amazing prop, and it was such a good prop that it made me a shit entertainer.
How was that? Because you relied on that too much?
It did all the work for me.
All right.
So, I'd start a show. I'd ride this bicycle around the pitch going, beginning a show. Then I'd get off the bicycle. I'd spend 5 minutes building this bicycle. And by the time you built it and you look up, you have 300 people watching you. And I haven't had to build that crowd. The prop did it for me. I went out one day without that bicycle and I tried to build a crowd and I didn't know my arse from a hole in the ground. I really
fell flat, right?
100%. And it wasn't even like I fell flat because it was a bad environment. I fell flat because I didn't know what to do. And years before I did. It wasn't that the skills weren't there, it's that the skills had been lost. The muscles were no longer finessed enough to be able to achieve the task at hand. So I got rid of the bike, got rid of the chainsaw, got rid of all these big props that help sell the work. And I went out with the minimal props and just tried to build a crowd with my chat and with a racket. And that was the reason that I think now I have the work that people enjoy now is because I spent that time doing it. So yeah, that's the thing I'd always say for people learning: time on pitch, stage time, amount of shows to do, study other people, learn your craft, get out there, and make your life hard at the beginning. Also, as well, it's a double-edged sword, this one, and this is a very interesting one. This will bring us to the point we were talking about before about originality and whether you use other people's stuff and how you work with all these things. Is that when I learned, I was, as you first said, just saying yeah and doing a trick, and then when I tried to become more of an entertaining show, I did what many people did, and I watched the Gazzo show. I took a majority of the Gazzo lines. They're very simple. They're very easy to deliver in one shot. And so provided you've got a little bit of timing, you can power those lines through. And so I started doing them, understood them. Then I watched Melvin's show, bits of Melvin's show bled into my show. Then I went and watched. And so basically the first few years of me developing talking acts was just me taking other people's work and using it.
And plagiarism.
Yeah, 100% plagiarism. And it was until I met Brian, and I've said this before in the video, so I won't labor on it too much. I met Brian. He said, you're a hack. There's no... the material is created. You should make your own material. And it hurt me deep, and I sat and wrote my own material. So I want to tell people beginning now not to do the hack. I want to tell them to start off original and push their own work. But I'm saying that in the very comfortable position of learning by copying and then developing my own stuff.
Yeah, because you've been in a different position than some of the what you're sharing, what you're asking others to do is not the position that you took when you started out. So, but you understand that it's really quite challenging. And what I would say to anybody starting out is just the same as yourself, Matt. Get out and do it, and you will fail, and you will fail, and you will fail, and you will fail. 100 times you'll fail. Then things will start coming together. Then you'll start thinking, holy shit. And then even before you even think about it, you might think you might have a crisis of confidence. You might think, I can't do this, because that's when I started. I thought, I can't do this. People are going to laugh at me. Who the hell do you think who the hell do I think I am? I can't do this. And then gradually get over that. You get over that, and then you start getting better and better and better and better and better. And that's what it's just like yourself, man. That's what I tell other people to do. Just get out and do it. You could eulogize about it for eons, long time, but unless you actually get out and do it, you'll never learn. So
I've got this way of looking at the sort of beginning to potentially the peak of your career is like a macro version of your street show. Your street show is a micro version of that. You begin the show with no one watching you. You feel like a dickhead. You're not quite sure what's going on, whether it'll work. You shout out, you keep talking, and then slowly you get one person, 2 people, 3 people, 15 people, and then you start thinking, well, this could work. I'm starting to feel something here. And then in the middle of the show to the end of the show, you have this huge crowd of people, and suddenly you're not dickhead anymore. Now you don't feel like a dickhead. You feel like a skilled, capable person.
You feel like a god.
Imagine it, and a lot of people watching know the feeling of having a huge crowd of people appreciating what you're doing. There's a rush that is like no other. I think that's why most of us end up when we go home self-medicating to try and deal with those highs and lows.
Yeah, it's like somebody said, I can't remember who it was, but somebody that we both know, I'm sure a lot of us know, said coming off a strong show, a really, really good show is like being in a car crash. And you need to just be coddled. You just need to be, I've seen, I won't mention him by name because I don't think it would be fair, but in Adelaide during the big group show, the big shows that they had in the Garden, the show that he did was seriously phenomenal. Just basic stuff that he normally does, but it was just that moment in time, and he came off and he's crying, absolutely crying. He was such a down. He said, "I'll never be that fucking good again." Which is not true because he certainly is. But it's just that moment. It's that, and it is like a car crash. Your adrenaline's going bang through the roof, and then you come down. It's like that's self-medication, whatever you like to call it.
Two things. First of all, I know where this story comes from. The car crash one, if I remember correctly, it's JP Koala was talking about one of the other Aussie performers. Is it? He's got missing toes. What's his bloody name now? I met him last year. His name's with an H.
I can't remember.
Right, let's move on. Not too rapidly aging men trying to remember. And his partner is a sports science scientist, and so she went and she did medical experiments, medical tests on people after doing shows, and human beings, after doing these really big, powerful shows, have all the biological markers of shock. They're in shock.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had the same thing. When you walk off a show, this big, huge, powerful show, it's killing it. I've walked off shows shaking, literally shaking. My head's spinning. I feel like I'm going to fall over. And I do have that exact thought, you know, that your friend described, where after that rush and after the joy bleeds out a bit, you get the dread because you think, will I be able to do that tomorrow?
I'm never going to be able to do that again. Exactly. Yeah. It's. I mean, you think, well, why the hell do you put yourself through that? But that's just one moment in time. The rest of the other moments are different. Everything's different. You know, changes. And I wouldn't change that for anything. I don't think I've ever experienced that, but I've experienced time coming off pitch when I know it was a good fucking show, and I know the hat was what the hat was. But I've never felt like in a car crash, but I just felt such a high, and I just want to be by myself. I didn't want to speak to anybody. Didn't want to connect with anybody. If that's a car crash, that's a car crash. But
you feel
I just didn't want to connect with anybody.
Is it anxiety? Would that be the right way to describe
it? Possibly. Yeah, possibly. Possibly, Matt. It could be. One is okay standing up in front of 300 people doing something and taking that energy to where you take it. But then when you get down to one-on-one where people are congratulating you, I find that really quite challenging. No disrespect to the people that want to do it, obviously. But I personally just find that very, very challenging. And I just want to get off pitch and go away and get away.
But I think this is the thing, you know, and I think that's a very common thing, is that we, you know, performers, not all of us, I know some performers are incredibly socially capable, but there's quite a few performers who feel they're more comfortable in a crowd of 300 people than they are in a crowd of 1-to-1. And the way I kind of describe that is that when I'm in front of a crowd, everything makes sense. It makes sense to me. I understand the dynamics. I understand how it works. You know, I understand that if I do this and I say this, you'll do that. It's a very simple world when you're doing a show. And then when I walk off and I chat to someone 1-to-1, suddenly the world becomes infinitely complicated. All the variables spiral out of control, and it makes me feel uneasy. You know, I really the same as you struggle after a show. Yeah. I mean, I love when people come and say thank you. It's a beautiful thing, but God does hate have to, you know, respond to them for it. I mean, what the fuck do you say? That's great.
It's exactly what Byron. Hi, Byron. He's just agreeing with this. The dopamine come down. What's he say? It's like having a great one night stand. Great one night. What's a one night stand, Byron? I've never had one of those before. Then the feeling of insecurity. I'm a tart, Matt. I'm an absolute tart. You know what I miss?
I know you're a tart. I've seen you at work. Oh yeah. Well, do you think there'll be an Edinburgh this year?
Well, firstly, I'm quite happily ensconced with somebody, which I'm not going to go into detail about because it's not germane. Yeah. She's, my mother doesn't know about it. She does now. But
what is this, Game of Thrones?
My mother doesn't know it, but she does now. Edinburgh Fringe. I've been speaking to Pop about it and other people. Nobody knows. I think Andy Meldrum was in New Zealand setting up for a festival there, which was obviously cancelled. I'm not sure if he's back in the UK at the moment, but he doesn't even know. He's not. There's nothing being posted up. I mean, we don't get to hear about it because we're on the group chat for that. But what if it doesn't happen?
Oh, fuck knows. Fuck knows.
I think the more important thing, if you don't mind me saying, is obviously to look after to make sure what's happening. As Craig, as Paul DeBeck and Billy Kidd say, Craig disappears.
Yes, the Craig, when the Craig has left the room.
When Craig's taken a hike. That's more important than anything else, obviously. But if it doesn't work, if the Fringe doesn't happen, what will take its place? Look at what's happening online. You're doing this online, right? Byron's doing stuff online. Paul and Billy doing stuff online. Matt Ricardo's doing stuff. People that we know
juggling in his kitchen.
Juggling in his kitchen. A lot of people are doing stuff online.
You were in a field earlier on.
Hey.
You were in a field earlier on?
Oh, yeah, called the Morning Muse. A stream of consciousness.
In the field.
A stream of consciousness. I do think about what I'm going to say, but then sometimes I lose track.
Yeah, same here.
You know, I mean, how do you think about all of this, Matt? And I'm not going to mention it by name, but we'll just call it Craig, right?
The Craig.
The Craig. It's like I was speaking to my brother, I saw something that my brother put up on Facebook saying, it was somebody posted, "Oh, at some point I'll go back to normal," and I think the thought was, no, it's the normal that fucked us up in the first place. So it's not about going back to the normal; it's going back to the new normal, finding different ways to make society work.
Well, this has happened before. This has happened before. It happens. There will always be pandemics. There will. Craig will always come around the party when you least expect him.
Or his cousins.
Or his cousins, his big family. He's got a big family. And they're always breeding, those Craigs. Always breeding. Bloody millions of them.
Yeah.
And this I want things to go back to how they were, because I was reasonably comfortable. I had things in the world I wanted to change, but I had a comfy position before, and I think this is great. I love chatting, and I love the fact that we have all of the people watching, all 17 of you. Hello.
Hello, people. How do you know there's 17?
So if you click on the screen, you put your mouse cursor on the screen, there'll be the
I get it.
Hearts and that, And so I love the fact that we have all the people watching, but let's be honest, most of the people watching here are people we already know. And the joy of Street, one of the reasons I love doing Street, is you contact people who would never watch you otherwise. People who have complete disagreements with you, people who have different ideologies, people who you'd never meet in real life, you can contact, you can communicate with, and just maybe you can affect the way they think in a minor way. And that's something which I believe is your legacy in the end. Once again, JP, you changed the world of 300 people at a time.
Jeez, yeah. Exactly. I mean, JP, for those of you watching who don't know who JP is, look him up on Facebook, JP Koala or JP McKendry, one of the stalwarts of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Been doing it for how long, Matt? Over 25 years, 25 fringes?
Even more. He's an old hippie, that guy, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's not got a lot. The thing about JP's show is he doesn't have height and he doesn't have hype. There's the hype and hype that we all see sometimes. And he's a floor show, and he does really well. And he's got that certain something, because I think he actually talks to his audience. He doesn't talk at the audience. I'm not saying I don't know who does that, but I'm sure it happens.
I definitely do.
He talks. Well, you, Matt Bowden, you're like it.
Yeah.
So we've got 17 people. Cabana, Lindsay, nice to see you, mate.
Hi, Byron, how you doing? Yeah.
Good to see you, mate. And Mr. Dean. Mr. Dean. Now you know Ian. You know Ian, Matt.
I know Ian.
We've known Ian for freaking years, and he's still a bloke. I love how he thinks. We have many conversations about deep topics. We might not agree on some things, but generally we do agree on a lot of things. And he's a lovely bloke.
South African everyone loves.
Yeah, he's South Africa. No, he's Scottish, mate. He's Scottish. Well, he's living in Scotland. He's a lovely bloke. Got a lot of time for him. Hell of a lot of time for him, as I have for Byron as well. He's a big film actor now.
Byron will be on Friday. I have to say that. He'll be there Friday at 9 o'clock, British summertime. One of the things I'll be chatting with Byron about is, I've talked about before, he's got typecast as a villain.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
As an actor, every film he's in.
Or a gay lorry driver.
Is he a gay lorry driver in one of them?
No, one of the episodes of Supernatural or something. He was kissed by this vampire. I can't remember the actual character. And then
I believe he played rapist number 2 in that.
All right. Okay. Well, maybe that was just cause for the death of his character then.
Yes, exactly. I think you have to justify it some way. So I'll be chatting with him about what it's like to be a complete typecast as a villain. He's also, I honestly believe, one of the funniest guys in the street. I really.
He's hilarious. He's freaking hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Well, talking about funny people, do you remember Dave McSavage?
I've never seen Dave. It was before my time.
But you've seen him. You've heard of him, right?
Oh, I know the name. I've met the guy. But I've never seen him work. Well,
when I was in Adelaide, just past the Adelaide Fringe, met a guy called Matt Eberhart. I think it's called Banana Man. Yeah. It does something similar, but without the caustic nature the caustic attacking nature that Dave McSavage had. Not that it was a bad way; it was just different. Yeah. And it's nice to see something similar by somebody else in so many years apart. But Dave McSavage is a
little bit of history repeating there. So I heard this story about Dave McSavage, apparently, and I don't know if I should tell this story on the air with Sharon Mahoney.
Oh,
and, do you know this? Yeah. And I believe
that's all enough. I don't know if it's urban myth. I don't go on about it. I've heard about it, but it is what it is. Was it Dave McSavage's show that he got arrested for saying the word penis? Or was that Livingston? No, somebody. No, it was in the Royal Mile, the Big Circle High Street, mid High Street. The police station was still being in operation, the unit information place. And I can't remember who the artist was, but he mentioned the word penis. And they came out, a policeman came out, an officer came out, had a quiet word with him saying, you're not allowed to mention that word because there are children present. And so he went, yeah, okay. And then he proceeded to drop that word into every single, third word. Yeah, children, I'm not allowed to say penis. Kids, what word am I allowed to say penis? And he got arrested. And somebody else hatted the show for him. Somebody hatted the show.
But he got arrested for being a funny, cheeky bastard. And I would argue that the word penis is something completely fine to say in public. It's a piece of biology. It boggles my mind. Yeah, but I'll be honest, like my mother was a caustic lady who used to turn around and say, why don't you fucking stop swearing, Matthew? Stop being such a little bastard. And so, I have never really found swear words that bothering. I'll say fuck, bitch, twat, cunt, it's water, it's and I don't get why as a society we're still so hung up on those words. Why we give them so much power? It boggles the mind. I mean, it's just a word. If I turn around in public and went sex, no one's gonna, people might look at me like I'm a crazy guy, but no one's gonna go, oh my god, how dare you? But if I stood in a public space and went fuck, then people are going to start going crazy. People are going to tell me you're wrong, you're evil. How dare you do that in front of children? You think, why?
It's an area of thought that I really don't. I can't go down because if you're in polite society, it's not de rigueur. But I am partly along the way with you on that, though, Matt. They're just words. Actions are worse, like hitting somebody, violence, murder, whichever war you want to call it. That's hugely disappointing and horrible. But a word is just a word, Yeah, and if you don't like it,
with the racially emotive words, I can understand a bit more.
Yeah,
and with the homophobic or with swear words that have a specific prejudicial content, something that's used to judge and cut someone down, I can understand why we don't do that collectively, because we don't want to propagate, engage with those ideas. We essentially, as a society, we don't want to hurt people. We want people to feel as good and as welcome as possible with everybody. So I can understand that. But then just the thing, shit, piss, bastard, fuck. And to be honest, I'll be honest, I have said fuck quite a lot recently. So I've got a joke that I've done, and there's a specific way you can say fuck in a show, and you have to turn around. It has to be very quick. It has to be brief. And so the one I've done is a guy's walking past, just the guy with his kids, and saying, "Oh, I've got to look after the kids again. Fuck." And so you can do that. And as long as you move straight on and you don't draw focus more to it than it is,
you don't mug it.
Yeah. I mean, this is a problem a lot of people make. Is a lot of people will make a joke that the crowd's laughing but a little bit uncomfortable about, and then what they'll do is then they'll hyper focus the uncomfortableness of the joke. They go, oh, I'm sorry about that, and I think it's always a mistake. Own the shit you do and just carry on with it. You said it, you believed in it, you're okay with it. If they didn't laugh at it, go do another joke. Don't dig a hole for yourself by keep focusing on this negative moment. And it took me a few years to learn that. I would get the JCB out if there's something went a little bit wrong at some points. I would attempt to get to Australia as quickly as possible, and it took me a long time for that.
You dig yourself a big hole, and you wouldn't be able to get out of it because your space is too big and you're going too fast.
And you're looking into the black hole instead of looking back at the light. You just keep staring into the void.
And that's an interesting thing. You've got your edge, right? You've got your circle. But this, this is going off at a tangent. But you might have somebody standing there like that, and really like a black energy, a dark energy, an energy that's horrible.
And it around the other people,
and then but you're focusing on that energy rather than everything else around. Isn't that weird? That's what my experience of it is. Yeah, but digging yourself a hole.
You say it's weird, but then remember a day where someone on the street bumped into you and said, "You fucking prick." You remember that far more than everyone going, thank you very much. Oh, nice to see you.
Yeah.
You remember the negative. And so in a show, it's far more compelling to look at the things you want to change than the things you're quite happy with.
Yeah.
You know?
And that can sometimes drag the show down and drag the energy down, and then you're not going to be able to take the people to where you want them to go on the journey.
Well, I see there's two problems with that. So the first problem is that while you're focusing on the people not having a good time, you are making yourself feel shit. And when you make yourself feel shit, I see an audience as quite an empathetic organism.
There?
The audience. You're frozen as well. You're back. We had a little glitch. Are you back as well? Yeah, cool. I can see you bobbing about. Yeah. Hey, we're back. So the audience is constantly empathizing with you. They're constantly looking at you, and they're kind of putting themselves in your shoes a little bit. Even subconsciously, they're feeling what you feel. We do all the time. I'm watching your face, and when I watch your face, I'm seeing what you're feeling. I've got someone at the door. 2 seconds. 2 seconds, guys.
Okay.
James, fill in for us, brother.
All right. So Matt's just gone over to answer the door. Just say hello to some of the guys here. I don't know if you're still here, guys. Nathan Earl, hi. Nice to hear you. Thanks for joining in. Ian, obviously, love you to bits, mate. John Hill, we'll go easier, of course. Mickey, hi, buddy. Hope you're still okay in, I think it's Thailand. Nico, if you're still around, still at work, mate. If I see you during Edinburgh, if Edinburgh happens, it'd be great. Look after yourself, man. Murdo and Angela, nice to have you on board. GJ Armstrong, the new laws crypto behind COVID. How long do you think? GJ Armstrong, with regard to COVID, the shutdown, anybody's, I don't have a guess, but just replying to something GJ Armstrong on the chat here, Matt. How long do you think COVID? I think the question is, how long do you think?
Craig, how long, Craig? Craig.
GJ Armstrong. Is that Craig?
He's a musician. No, Craig.
Oh, how long is COVID going to be here?
How long is Craig going to be here?
Who can say? I think here's the thing. The only thing I'd say around about Craig is stay indoors. It's quite simple. Yeah. Unless you're critical worker, stay indoors. I mean, I go out for a walk in the morning at 6 o'clock, but there's nobody around. Anyway, that's all I'll say about it.
I leave the screen for 1 minute and we're talking about bloody disease.
No, we're talking about Craig.
So let's get back onto the street kind of stuff. So the two things you get when you're focusing on people who are having a bad time is you're fucking your head. The audience empathize with you all the time. They're constantly wanting to be inside your head. And when you're looking at the one person in the crowd having a bad time, you're fucking your own head up, which is giving them negative empathy. The other thing around that as well is that sometimes you need to get rid of people like that as well. Because if you have, you either get rid of them by just allowing them to not enjoy themselves enough that they leave. You know, I'm not going to play to you. I'm not going to try and make you have fun. If you don't like this thing I'm doing, I'm going to do it constantly until you fucking go, because you're a black hole. Yes. Or you just focus.
Yeah, true.
You focus on them and you make a piece about it. So suddenly it becomes everybody else and you having fun looking at this person being miserable. Because sometimes they are, as you say, a black hole. I've watched it so many times. You have this side of the crowd going wild, this side of the crowd going wild, one miserable bugger there, and then all the people around that miserable bugger, they don't want to clap and cheer because they don't see the other people doing it. And laughter, clapping, the enjoyment in the show, it's a group activity. You know, the psychology is that we want to do things together and we move as a herd when we're watching a show. That's the reason why you want to get to 200-300 people as quickly as possible, because you want to get that herd mentality so you can, entertain. Well, you don't want everyone constantly critically thinking about everything all the time. You want people to be a little bit more intuitive when they're watching you, and people tend to do that better when there is a group. And sometimes you've got to do a bit of group dynamic work. You've got to fuck people off.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of examples of that, if I may. Scoot Mark Eason on the Mound when he came to Edinburgh one year. He's laying out his rope down at the Mound, and he sees a lot of kids. It's a lot of young people, the young children at school holidays, sitting down because there's going to be a show. He didn't want kids in the front row, so he gets out a cigarette and a can of beer, and he's got a fag down from his mouth, can of beer, dragging the rope along. And he said he could see the parents coming, going, right, that's it, right, we're not watching this. So he filled his audience right from the get-go.
I've heard a story of a similar guy in Covent Garden doing this. So when all the parents went off to the restaurant, if you saw at the start of the show the parents leaving the kids because he knew the kids would be a problem, the first thing he'd do in the show is he'd go, fuck shit, shit. And the parents would immediately come back and go, take the kids away. And he'd be like, yes, thank you very much.
Exactly. Sorry, carry on, Matt. I'm over talking.
No, please carry on, mate.
This creates the best joke I've ever heard, the best piece I've ever heard for a long time. And I always thought it was something Gaza came up with, but then this superseded it. And it was this guy, let's see, it was this guy here, Kenny Lightfoot. Just imagine, Kenny Lightfoot, phenomenal. He's got his edge. Right, he's got his crowd, he's got his edge, he's got his semicircle, whatever. And there's a gap off to his left-hand side, facing the phone box, a gap off to his left-hand side. And there's this guy standing there like that. Right, he's standing away from the edge, and there's a gap where he could stand in. So Kenny politely says, "Excuse me, sir, could you mind if you come in a bit closer? I just fill up that spot." As we all have. Yeah, and the guy was ambivalent. He said, "No." And then Kenny asked again, and then he asked again. And then Kenny just looked at him right in the eye, because I was there, right there at the time. He just looked at the guy, and this is the way Kenny played it was brilliant. I looked him right in the eye and says, "You don't like being manipulated, sir, do you?" And the guy goes, "Nah." I was like, "That's why you're wearing designer clothes then." and on that line, Kenny just turned away, didn't mug the joke, didn't milk it, and the guy just went, walked away. Somebody else filled in the gap. It was just a classic moment of filling in the edge. Yeah.
I've heard a story about you. About you dealing with a problem child in an envelope.
Does it involve Mark Seymour?
No, it doesn't involve Mark. Mark Seymour. Hey guys, no, it's not Mark.
A kid in an envelope.
And there's a certain 4-letter piece of Anglo-Saxon written on the envelope.
F-U-C-K.
Two words. Fuck off, I believe, is the words that was on the envelope.
What's the story? It's not something I've ever heard of. That's something I'd be part of.
This was told to me by Lord Lucan, saying he said that there was a kid giving you shit the entire show, really annoying you, and you kept telling him, "Look, please be quiet. You're ruining it for everyone else. Please stop." Yeah. And then apparently, eventually, you just handed an envelope to him and said, "Open the envelope. Read what's on it." And apparently, in the envelope, it said "fuck off." And apparently, this shut the kid up.
I don't. I've never done anything like that before.
I'm disappointed.
It's not me. Sorry, mate. Sorry, bro. Not me. No, I don't remember doing that at all. Then never
Mark Seymour would have done that.
Well, Mark I'm not going to get into the Mark Seymour stories.
Mark just wouldn't use the envelope.
No, just
get the fuck out of this show.
Here's a thought, Matt. Here's just a thought. Look at who we know in our field, right, in the community at large, who are now working in Vegas, like Sam Wills, Amy, Paul DeBeck, Amy, Misbehave.
Yeah,
Amy Saunders. I had a massive crush on her. Massive crush on her when I was starting out.
I don't blame you.
She's another story. She's a beautiful person. She's a beautiful person. Yeah. And Piff the Magic Dragon, he never was on the street per se. Well, he wasn't on the street, but Jonathan Vanderpoot. People that we know are now working in Vegas, and a couple of guys from Australia, Magic Mike Tyler, I think. Mike, I call him Mike, and Chris Wayne, the Naked Magicians. They started out in Australia, and now and they toured America twice, toured Asia, they toured all over with this great show they've got, and they worked the strip as well for about 6 months. They had a 6-month contract. So it's interesting. I think what I'm saying is, it's interesting to know the people that the people, some of the people that we know, and they're now working in that rarefied area, which is quite weird.
The skills we develop, if kind of snipped in the right place, and if with the right control, the skills are completely transferable to those environments. People who work on the street, providing you can get past the desire to get a crowd to cheer every 3 minutes, if you can get past that, if you can get past the kind of the more stockish nature of the street, and you watch a lot of those guys that get there, they kind of manage to penetrate a bit past it. All of them. I mean, Paul, I love Paul. Paul's fucking great. I think Paul DeBeck is probably one of the more powerful magic shows working on the circuit right now.
He's phenomenal.
Really amazing. Probably not the most. He's not the most. He's got a huge hack element to his work, but I think he ties it all together in such a nice bow that it doesn't feel like. It never feels like any material borrowed. He's done the Picasso quote, hasn't he? Good artists steal, don't borrow.
He's what he's done. I mean, I look at what he's done and think, first of all, good on you, mate. And it's nice to see that you knowing him from Edinburgh for so many years, seeing that trajectory, and that's inspiring. And it's not just about the show. It's not just about the work. It's not just about the getting out and doing that. It's about all the other stuff that he does, all the other stuff that anybody that's successful does. And they look after the diet, they look after the exercise, they do this, they've got a certain mode that they live their lives within.
They're very productive, organised people. You tend to find that the more some of the best acts don't get to Vegas, and they don't get to those things. You look at your Living Spaces, your Pepe's, a lot of other people. I very kind of perhaps quite arrogantly put myself in not the same quality of work as them, but definitely the same style of fuck up as them. A lot of these guys, they have the stuff in the show. When they're doing the show, can you hear that beeping coming through?
Yeah, I don't know where that. Oh, that's. Hold on,
me.
just give me a
second. It's my messages. No, James, it's me. Don't worry, it's me.
I don't know. Yeah, okay, carry on.
Don't panic. It's me doing it, and we're going to put up with it for now. And I'll have to remember to put my notifications off for the next video. They're fucking powerful when you put them on a stage, and they kill the stage they work on, but they have no ability to sell themselves. They don't tend to get the Vegases, the big gigs, these kind of things. And I think it's specifically because you said it's the stuff they do outside of the show. Success, big success. The Vegases being Le Clique and being in all these big cabarets, and that stuff comes from stuff. It's not done during the show. The work it's got nothing to do with you being a good entertainer, even though all of those people are incredible entertainers. It's got to do with you being a businessman almost, selling yourself, being able to network effectively, promote yourself effectively, which in all fairness is something that I didn't get into street performance for. I long to be able to do it now because God, I'd like the opportunity to reach bigger crowds, but without a doubt it's not in my skills. It's not in my repertoire, as it isn't for a lot of the more disorganized of my community. But also, Matt, it's a desire to want to do it. If that's what one wants to do, that's what one wants to do, and you make a point of actually getting there because you create your life according to that framework. It's not something I want to do. Obviously, it's not something that you want to aspire to. It's what your aspirations are. And if you're happy with doing what you're doing, you're happy doing what you're doing. And I'd like to have a bigger reach. I'd like to be able to. I've always wanted to put together comedy shows, sitcoms, TVs, that kind of thing. But I'm too much of a dickhead. When I talk to people.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. If you want to write sitcoms and do stuff, what are you doing in and around it?
I write little concepts, but also as well, when I say I'd like to write sitcoms, what I mean is that I'd like someone to turn around to me and say, here's a load of money, go write a sitcom. And then I'd dedicate myself to sitting doing it. I'd like the door to be opened before I've rang the bell.
All right. Okay. So is it about the money to be able to support yourself out with doing street? I mean, no, it's
I think the money isn't the important thing. The important thing is that you have that this will be made. That it's like, right, we want to do this show. The show will be 6 episodes. Write something for this. And I believe if I was given an opportunity, I'd spend every single day doing it, making it happen. But if someone turns around to me and says, right, write for 10 years, and then maybe you'll get somewhere, I kind of write for a day, and then I go, and I just go and do 3 shows.
Here's a question for you then, Matt. Of all the people that you've been out with and had relationship with, did you know that they were going to say yes to your relation to connecting with you before you asked them out, before you connected with them?
Kinda.
Pretty deep. So you knew people wanted to go out with you before you asked them?
I'm a coward. I'm a coward.
just trying to do a bit of deep therapy there, Matt. Deep therapy.
Yeah. Well, I like to have a good suspicion that someone's into me before I make a move.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Maybe that's the same thing for this. Is that I'd like to see the future. I mean, I've written some sitcoms, I've written some bits and bobs, but then how the fuck do you get that out to people? You're one voice screaming in hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. True. When I had an idea of, I posted this up online a couple of days ago in the Morning News, and I many years ago I thought, what would it be like if somebody, a group of people who had regular jobs, were given their salary or their wage. I mean, there is a difference between the two because one's weekly, one's monthly. Let's still go down that path at the moment. But given their money for the whole year, right at the beginning of the year or at one specific point, and they weren't allowed to work for that following year, right? So they weren't allowed to work gainful employment, not allowed to make any more money. What would they do with their time? That was an active thought that I had because I don't like reality TV shows, and I thought this could be a reality TV show that could have some muster. So what would it be like?
It's kind of Big Brother if they left the door open.
Yeah, but now that Craig's here, that's something that's quite doable. Because people are not going out. Not saying that they'd be given all their wages in one time in one fell swoop, but this.
Perhaps that's an interesting thing. Perhaps we're all in the Big Brother house now.
But there's a reality TV show that sucks. Sorry.
The first season, so this is my theory on Big Brother. So I watched the first season avidly. And I think the first season, what they did is they got a good spread of people, and they got actually quite nice people. They got people that you'd sit and you'd quite like to have a drink with. They were all fairly decent human beings. And so you could watch it. They're nice. I'd like to know them. And then as you watch the seasons go on, and I dropped in and out of the seasons as they went on, what you notice is that reality TV figured out that people like pricks. They want to see arseholes, the dickheads, as described by a comedian recently. I can't remember the guy's name, but the dickheads have been rolling the sixes for a long time. And so reality TV have realised it's more compelling to watch a dickhead than watch nice people have conversations. And that's why I kind of switched off from it,
But the whole idea, I don't have a diatribe about it, but the whole idea of a reality TV show, my dad said to me, bless him, he said, TV is supposed to educate, inform, and entertain. Big Brother, I just hate the concept. People might be nice people to hang around with. Fine, great. But the whole concept of the show, watching people, nah. So it's not, for me, it wasn't entertaining, wasn't informative, and it wasn't educational. And I do believe that TV, this medium, should be educational, informative, and entertaining. And I believe in what you're doing and what other people are doing in regard to these things, because some nuggets come out of it which can be shared, which is a good thing. But I don't believe reality TV shows, nah, not for me.
Do you know one of the interesting things that's happening now is that TV over the last 30 years, the editing times have got faster and faster and faster. So in the old times, it was about 2 or 3 minutes per scene before flash to next scene, flash to next scene. Yeah. But now it's about 10 to 25 seconds, around about that. I'm kind of spitballing the figures. I'm trying to remember a thing I watched years ago discussing this. But what they theorize in that, which I can completely see as being a valid point, is that when children watch these programs, what they're doing is they're constantly learning how long you pay attention to something. And so they used to have 3 minutes of focus, the next scene, but now it's new scene, new scene, new scene. So the focus becomes much shorter. But with the new internet form of media, what you're seeing now is you're seeing lots of different long forms of entertainment. So you're getting the Joe Rogan podcast, which are regularly 3 hours long. You're getting hundreds upon thousands of podcasts, which are generally about an hour long. So suddenly the medium is stretching out and becoming long form again. Majority of YouTube videos are between 20 to 40 minutes long. So suddenly we've got this long form thing building up again. Interesting, they say for Facebook videos, apparently 18 minutes is the perfect time. So we're about 40 minutes further than that. Yeah, we're going for the longer form kind of thing, nice, decent, meaty conversation.
That's something I never thought about, Matt. That's actually a very good call. Because if people are being educated, if kids are being educated through the medium of TV and they're seeing these shortcuts, then they have a very short attention span. But now, as you're saying, it's more long form. That shares with them that you can actually tries to get them. It doesn't try. It shares them that helps them rather have a longer attention span.
Yes, because you've got to remember that the way you're not always consciously affected by things. So the way you think and the things you do, it's not always cognitive. You're not always sitting there as a critical individual judging things and being a gatekeeper of stuff. So if you are watching these very, very quick transitions on every single bit of media you ever watch, and let's admit it, most human beings' worldview, I'd say a good proportion of them is informed by people pretending to be real people. It's actors, it's television, it's hosts. So exactly. So these things can affect you without you even realizing. The human mind has a high plasticity. It has a high way to adapt to things, and so you will adapt with things you have no idea you're adapting to.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I think Pop's just waved at me at the window. He's bought me a bottle of white wine. So
lovely. Hey!
For those of you watching, it wasn't vodka. I fucking hate vodka. It was water. So I'm going to have some wine.
See, television people, all smoke and mirrors. Don't believe anything.
Smoke and mirrors. How do you put those oranges? How do those oranges appear under the cups? Well, I put them under when you're not watching. But I was watching all the time. Now you're fooling yourself.
Yes.
And where the fuck did that melon come from? The usual shit, the usual stuff. What was I going to say? So carry on.
So keeping on the thing of television, have you heard of a phrase called false jeopardy?
No.
It's a phrase that's used in the film editors world, particularly with reality TV shows.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they'll film something and it'll be fairly mundane. But then what they'll do is they'll edit it in a way that makes it more compelling to watch. So you believe you're watching reality TV, but really what you're watching is a highly finessed form of reality. And you get this with comedy shows. So with a lot of the panel shows, a lot of the stand-up sets you'll ever watch now, they're edited to the last nth of their existence to make everything hit and punch and perfect. And there's laughs cut in from over here and put here in the right place. And there's a face of someone laughing that actually had nothing to do with the joke there. In the theatre that it's filmed in might not have hit. And so one of my real pet peeves now with watching comedy, a lot of television comedy, is that it's like you're in a house of mirrors. You don't know what's real. You don't know how funny people really are. These guys who are big stars, they could be having one dud after another out there, but all they need to do is cut it in the right way and it looks like it's a hit. Yeah,
editing. Look at what BGT does, or AGT, or any of the Got Talent shows does. And they made certain performers that we know look bad when they weren't bad, just because of the editing, because of their agenda. But yeah,
I watched the unedited footage of Bike Boy.
Got you knew exactly what the fuck I was talking about. I
did. I watched. There was a guy performing in central London called Luigi, who apparently now is performing very successfully in Thailand. Born again Christian guy who used to do the Russian parlor trick. You know the Russian parlor trick?
No, I don't know the Russian parlor trick.
The Russian parlor trick is the 4 chairs. You put 4 chairs down.
They sit on each other.
And then you pull. That's all he does. But what he'll do is the first thing he does is he gets someone out, lies them down in the middle of the pitch, and then gathers a crowd. So everybody's essentially stopping because they want to see what the fuck he's going to do with this poor person who's lying down on the floor. And he's a born-again Christian, so he'll run around going, everybody, give me a big God bless round of applause. It's the most bizarre thing you've ever seen. He does it in a Spider-Man costume, and he has the biggest penis of a man I've ever seen in my life. It's like a baby's arm holding an apple. Honestly, I mean, I don't feel inadequate, but when I saw this guy, I felt inadequate. And he runs, and you can see this huge fucking dong moving around as he's running about.
Inside his costume. Yeah, I've heard of some performers that got huge.
As he's saying, praise God. And you think, God gave you some fucking gifts. You know? I've forgotten why I began to talk about this now. He went on Britain's Got Talent, and he basically tried to dance around and jump about, and he was awful. He was the worst guy ever, bless him. He turned around to the presenter and he went, "Oh, you look like Anton Deck." And the presenter was just like, Anton Deck? Straight. I'm going going to post a link to it in the video after I've finished, so other people can watch. It's fucking hilarious. Britain's Got Talent. It's a fucking fix. It is a fix.
Well, if you look at it it's like a group show, Matt. When I went on it in Australia many years ago, and I didn't get voted off. I got voted through, and I had to sign the document. But then they showed during the actual what was aired, they would show the judges looking at the photographs and looking at the bios of these people and blah 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 blah. But in reality, I wasn't called back, although I got through. I wasn't called back because what they're doing as well, is that they choose this curve that they want to take the show on, and they fill in and dynamically edit it accordingly to what their requirements and their agenda is.
Yes. Well, you remember my last dog I had before the dog I have now? It's a dog called Zooty. Yeah. And for the people who don't know, Zooty was a shepherd collie cross. Amazing dog. He'd jump over your head, take a ball off the top of your head. Very, very funny story before I go on to talk about this. He was once a friend called Shandy South, put a ball in his head, and everyone used to do it. The dog used to jump, take it off. And one time we were doing this, the dog jumped, the ball was on Shandy's head, the dog overshot, and his penis went into Shandy's head. Fucking hilarious.
Shandy's eating dog cock.
Shandy ate dog cock, and I watched the shock on his face. He literally went.
I will never forget that.
It was salty. It was fucking hilarious. But I digress. So I'm doing tricks with the dog. Fucking funny story. So I'm doing tricks with the dog at the back of the pitch. Dog's jumping over my head, taking the ball off my head. The dog's doing roll over, lie down, balance the ball in the end of the dog's nose. And I'm just fucking about because I'm at the back of the pitch with the dog. It entertains the dog. It entertains me. It entertains everyone else around. Everybody wins. Yeah. And this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm from Britain's Got Talent, and we're really looking to have animal shows on this year. We want a dog on this year. Would you be interested on coming on and doing some stuff with your dog?" Guess who won that year?
I don't know.
A dog.
Won.
Yeah.
All right.
That year coming up. And there was a big uproar because it turned out in the finale, the dog that won, it was a different dog. So you know from the fucking start that those people, they were told, go out, look around, find performers with dogs. We want an animal show to win this year. And they did everything they needed to do to make the narrative play out the way they wanted to play. It's a fiction. That's
what they want. That's what they want.
False jeopardy.
That's what it's called, false jeopardy.
Yes.
Oh, I never knew that. I never knew that.
All those silly bastards calling in, paying their pound to vote for the people they want, all fucking nonsense. And I've thought long and hard about why I don't like Britain's Got Talent and how I can justify why I don't like it. And I have these big issues with something that should be artistic and should be some form of expression being whittled down to purely a commodity. And I really believe Britain's Got Talent. It's a commodification of it. I'm sorry, carry on, Jim.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I agree with you. Something Leroy Hart, Mr. Spanner from Australia said, don't go into competitions because how can you compare oranges with a tractor? And you're a juggler, you're a magician, or you're a contortionist, or you can't. There's no comparison. There's no way to judge that. So just don't do game shows. And I did AGT many years ago just for the footage, just so I could use the footage because it's a big stage, right?
We all know it's got its benefits. If you look at I can't remember his first name now. Rob's brother. Oh, but is it Ian? Liam Collins. If you look at Liam Collins, Liam Collins won with Faces of Disco. He got into the semis with Faces of Disco, and he said for 1 year he got into all the most exclusive clubs. He got gigs fucking non-stop for 1 year, and then it was back to normal. So that's the bonus of working with them, is they do give you a lot of exposure. But I kind of, I've multiple times doing my show, I've been given the card in my hat, Britain's Got Talent, and every time I throw it away, and I say I'm not selling my soul because
Ricardo. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just. I mean, also as well, what the fuck would I do on Britain's Got Talent that would look good? My thing is a responsive thing where I play and I'm a buffoon in a crowd. If I go on there and I try this buffoonery, it's not something that has this quality that can be caught on a stage with the work I do now anyway. So maybe that's part of it. But I think I think the big reason more than anything is that I can't really ideologically agree with the format, and also as well, fucking come on, where fucking what's his name? The guy who runs Britain's Got Talent. His name is.
Can anybody on the chat here? Ross, Byron, Harry, Sergio, I kill ya. Yeah,
what's his name? This is what you get when you get two old men.
Shit. I'm just. You could Google it. You could Google it.
His name is. The funny thing is, I'm going to talk about details of his life. I know loads of details. Simon Cowell, his name is.
That's the one, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Multi-billionaire.
You know where he made his money from originally? You know where his big windfall was?
Don't know.
Do you remember a certain Christmas number one called Mr. Blobby? That was where he made his money. That was his first big thing. He took the money he made from that. He bought he bought into Sony, and he just kept making these bullshit pop songs in the early 90s. So you got the Teletubbies songs. You've got all these different bullshit. Yeah. He'd latch onto a popular IP, and he'd make a pop song with it, and he'd promote it well enough to make money from it.
Yeah,
there's nothing quality about that, is there? He was he's the McDonald's of music.
Sergio says it was Lee Nelson. Thanks, Sergio. I kill you. I'm supposed to say Carl Ross has got it right. Obviously, Les. Sergio, are you drinking, Sergio? Because he's anyway. Things are changing on the street also at the moment, Matt. Obviously, because Craig's here. I see you're seeing a lot yourself. People doing stuff online.
Yes,
more people are doing stuff online.
The kind of prank videos and stuff like that.
Well, no, just like for example, Super Scott Bless him doing a juggle, Matt Ricardo doing in the kitchen, Billy and Paul DeBeck doing their happy TV show. Themselves, obviously.
Best produced piece of work I've seen so far from any of us is that that I watched. I can't do this every time I talk about someone. I can't ask what the fucking name is. Oh.
My name is James. My name is
you. There's an American comedy TV show, American TV show. They do news. He's a left-winging news guy. He's an English guy, little guy, short hair, glasses. John Oliver. So John Oliver, he's done a show from his home with all the production team for the News Tonight, I think is his show. Okay. And Happy TV, the Billy and Paul show, much better production values, much better than an HBO funded program, and their show has better production values. I was really so pleased and horrified when I looked at how much work had gone into it, and how good it was.
I wonder how they do it, because how they're going to carry on, because Paul's in Vegas, or LA rather, and Billy's back in the UK.
We're doing this right now. The production values might not be quite there, but they got Frodo from Sweden, I believe Frodo's in.
Yeah, he was doing something for Sweden, and then Matt Burton, I can't remember the guy's name, but Strongman did some. I can understand how that's.
That was Magic Mike.
Well, I can understand how it's put together, and that's quite an easy thing to do. You get somebody to do something, or you ask somebody to do something along a certain paradigm, and then you splice it together. But if Billy and Paul is supposed to be co-presenting, they can't now not do it the same in situ, because they're on different sides of the planet.
It did feel like a morning chat show, didn't it? It felt like
it did. Yeah, it was very well done. One thing I would ask, one thing I did mention on the morning walk this morning. Was shared what they were doing, which I think is a good thing to do, obviously, because the friends, they've got good stuff. They should have microphones, because the one thing that came through, apart from anything else, was that the microphone, the room sounded like an echo. It wasn't they weren't mic'd up.
But I will say this once again, John Oliver, HBO funded program.
Yeah,
they're doing it from home. They're editing it. They're basically emailing the edit out to each other to run it. And the quality was shit. The sound quality was changing. There was repetitions in the edit. It looked like it was a rough cut, and that's what they're putting out. So they are a professional working team making programs, and their output right now looks like a rough cut. So can you imagine how difficult it is to make? Because production studios are incredibly expensive, technologically advanced things. It's not an easy thing to do, obviously. I was shocked, that I thought nowadays everything would be click, 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 and it'd be perfect. But these guys have got the money to do it, and it's not. It's far more difficult than that.
I'll try and have a look at that, actually. I think I'll just do a Google for it. I'll keep it up there because I don't want to look at it. It's a quality show.
Well worth watching any time. John Oliver, very, very funny. Check it out.
I like John Oliver. Yeah, I like some of the stuff. Yeah, and we won't get on to the country that he's residing in at the moment because that's just a dark hole that we just don't need to go down into.
What? The orange coloured one.
He whose name shall not be mentioned.
I'll tell you what, when I'm chatting with Byron on Friday, he's got a killer impression. I think it might be coming out.
All right, cool.
The guy's pitch perfect with it.
Yeah, Brian, another genius, by the way, another genius.
Oh, Brian, tonight, 9:00. So we're going to have to... It's 8:00 now.
All right.
Brian, for everyone who's watching, Brian is on at 9:00. So we can chat for maybe half an hour more. Let's finish up.
Yeah, just a couple of, what else can we say about Street? We told people I mentioned to people to go out and do it if you want to do it. It's about Street stories. There's the Busker Hall of Fame as well, Matt. If nobody knows about it, Google Busker Hall of Fame. There's great interviews there as well.
Definitely, some people from the past. Let me ask you a few questions. What's your favourite pitch and why?
My favourite pitch is the Royal Mile, Edinburgh. Primarily because that's where I am at the moment, and
is that out of Fringe?
Outside of Fringe, out of Fringe.
Wow!
I'm just on the run up to Fringe because I'm not sharing the pitch with shed loads of other people.
But you're socially, there, you're not. You don't use mics there, no?
No, I'm not. No, I've got a big voice, so we don't use mics.
So I still find it very problematic doing multiple. I mean, I lived in Edinburgh for a short time, and I found it difficult doing multiple shows a day unmiked. I wasn't trained for it. I hadn't done time. I'm doing a lot of unmiked shows at the moment in preparation for the potential licenses coming in London. So I know that I can sidestep a lot of the license if I'm unmiked. I mean, we're going to try and fight the license. There's probably a lot of people watching who are fighting the license with us right now. I think the coronavirus potentially could be within our favour. Craig, sorry, fuck it, I did it, fuck's sake. The Craig could be in our favour. Because if we go back to working straight after this dropped and everyone's going out to the city trying to have a good time, and then the council starts coming down and arresting people who just managed to work again, it's not going to play very well at all. So all the people who are in that fight with me, I think we've still got a very, very, very big clout to win. But nonetheless... I know that, sometimes, even though we have every power to win, and I believe we will win, you hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. And
of course. I hear what you're saying.
I am, leathering up my vocal cords again like they used to be.
I mean, when I say I've got a big voice, as I mentioned, it's not really that big. It's just it's just something that's there. But after a few days, my throat starts to sound like that. Then it gets through then it passes through, and then I'm okay.
Well, I had that thing, I used to work completely on mic for years, and I would talk like this all the time. That'd be my voice. All right, mate, how you doing? And then I'd go to a show. Suddenly, it would sound like this.
True. So, what's your best pitch, and why?
So my best pitch, I have different pitches for different reasons. Monetarily, in terms of the big show, feeling like a rock star. Without question, it's going to be Covent Garden. I would view it as the best pitch in Europe I've worked all year round. Obviously, the Royal Mile during Edinburgh, Royal Mile, and I like scummy Hunter Square. I quite like Hunter Square. My people, give me the scumbags.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I understand Hunter Square.
Yes. But I also have pitches I like for different reasons. I like working Camden. I work a little side street in Camden. I work a street in Camden where you can only do a 20-minute show and you can only have 2 rows of people, and the front row has to be close enough that you can reach out and touch them.
Wow.
But it's a complete, you have to have it tight because it's a sidewalk. It's like Jimmy talks a lot in America doing the sidewalk shows. But I like working that place because in Camden you get interesting people. You get all these different people who have really sculpted their appearance. And so as someone who likes to talk about what's around me, having people that have made an effort to present themselves in a way gives you a lot to talk about. One of my favorite lines with punks, when punks walk past in Camden, is you say, congratulations you for showing your individuality by getting a mohawk like every other punk.
It's like snowboarders. We're so individual, yeah, but they all wear the same similar shit.
Yeah,
the same thing.
But I get that, because as a kid I went through the rock phase, and I had the realization. I was cutting my clothes up, I was wearing the hoodies, and I was saying to everyone, I went, "Yeah, man, you should be an individual. You shouldn't dress like everybody else." And then it slowly dawned on me, hang on a minute, I'm not being an individual. I've just assigned myself to a different group. You know, I've picked a subculture as opposed to the culture. And so the thing that I realized, at least to myself, and maybe it's a very damaging realization, is if you believe that, then there's no real point in aesthetically presenting yourself. There's no point in piling weight into the way you appear. Because if you believe it doesn't matter what you look like, then you doing that is a conflict with that belief. I will say this: as I'm getting older, and as now, particularly in this moment where the street is no longer something I can walk out on and look over, I want to rely on my character, the talent, and the skill I've developed to sell. I'm starting to have to look at my appearance. When I'm doing these job interviews, I was thinking, "Fuck, I'm going to have to shave. I'm going to have to cut my hair. I'm going to have to get a suit. I'm going to have to present myself, because no one's going to fucking hire a guy who doesn't give a fuck about what he looks like, despite the fact that logically what you look like should not matter."
Yep. But the people that say the people that are going to give you the job or not give you the job, they want you to look a certain way, conformity.
Right,
so either you attend to that or you don't.
But it's a good tell, you know. If someone's wearing a suit and they've made the effort, it shows that they understand the game that's being played. And that's the thing. It's a game that's being played, which for almost a lifetime, I've managed to. I think you have. A lot of the people a lot of the people watching have managed to opt out of that game. We haven't been in that game. We've managed to define our own thing. Yeah,
I think it's the lifestyle that it engenders, Matt. You know, I think it's not, when I've mentioned this to some of my closest friends, my oldest friends, it's not about the money. Then I get the question, well, if it's not about the money, don't put the hat out. Of course we need to earn a living. We need to have an income. We've got to live. We have to earn an income. But I believe it's how you come to that path you take in order to generate that money to live the life that you want. Now, if we want to be extremely wealthy, but we are rich. We're extremely rich in memories and ability and where we've been and what we've done, who we've experienced. Not financially rich, but as Bob Marley would say, is you're rich, so that's all you've got, right? Is that it? Is that also all you got? Money, you know?
Yes.
But the money is important, but it's more important. I think it's more important to like the path that you're on in order to generate the income that you require.
Well, I'm going to be quite lofty with this one, but I'm going to say it's when you're on your deathbed, okay? When you're breathing your final breath, when Craig has set into the point where you know it's the end. I'm not saying it to you. I mean, yeah, you are in the
No, just saying. Yeah, okay. It could be anything. Could be cut down by the car, or you know.
It could be that moment before the bus runs you over, you know,
or
whatever.
Anyway, last breath.
What do you think about? Do you think about how much money you've got? Do you think, thank God I've got those types? No. I'd like to believe you think about what's going to happen when I'm gone. What's left behind? What's the legacy? You know, do I get to die thinking I've left a positive legacy, or do I get to die thinking that my life didn't matter? You know, and that's the thing I take away. If the bus runs me over, if the last breath leaches out of my lungs, and I can believe that I've had a positive effect on the world, what more can you hope for? What more can you have as the last thing you think about as life leaves you? Yeah.
I think that's a very, very good call. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't. Well, I don't know if a lot of people, but some people don't think that way. Because if you think, it's okay, Matt.
A lot of people don't have the opportunity, I believe.
Well, if I had a thought in my head there, I can't mind what it is, but I believe something along the very similar lines. What can I do to make other people's lives better? What can I do? And if that's your thought on your deathbed when you're drawing your last breath, then reverse engineer that to get to that space that's the life that you've lived, and so that's your thought. That just doesn't happen like that. You've got to think along those lines as you're living life, so that when you do draw your last breath, that's the memory that you have. That's the thought that you have.
And James, I think on that note, I think we've reached a nice place to tie this in a knot.
I think so, mate.
James, I'll talk with you after the video's closed. I just say to everyone else, thank you for watching. It's a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be here again on Wednesday, so check us out again on Wednesday. James, before we go, would you like to talk about Bus.tip?
Bus.tip, but I haven't got a fucking clue what you're talking about. Bus.tip, buskTip.com. Right. Just let me say this. I'm not going to shove it down people's throats because that's not me and it's not Jermaine and I don't like doing that crap. But I will say that as a platform for buskers to get tipped on, we killed it in Adelaide. We did really, really well in Adelaide. I won't go on about the details. I won't go on about who because it's not Jermaine. But as a tipping facility for performers, we've had some glitches, but we've got through them and we're now in the process because nobody's working, right? In the process of changing things around. But what I will say is, but what I will say, Matt, is there is something coming down the pike this week, maybe into next week. I'm not running late. It's just that we've got lots of time. But something is coming down the line that I think will benefit other people. And my whole ethos around it is going back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, was help other people. And if you help other people, you get success. Exactly. And I do truly believe that we've got something that's going to be of benefit. So I'm going to trial it myself. I'm going to get a few other people on board, and then it goes down the path it has. So I don't want to talk. I'm one for putting the cart in front of the horse sometimes, like going full on with the delineation and marketing of it and graphics without actually having the product, without actually having the thing. But I'm holding that close. Yeah. But it's something is coming down the line. But thanks for mentioning it. I don't like pushing it down people's throats. Don't want to go on about blah, blah, blah.
Is there a link we can put in the end of the video?
No.
No, okay, not for now, but check it out in the future. I will, when there is something to put forward, if this is still churning over, I will put it forward for you. We'll get James back.
Cheers, mate.
A little bit more. Right. For now, everybody out there, I love you. Peace. Be well. Mwah. Check you on Wednesday, 6 o'clock, British summertime, where we have Guy Collins. Check you now. Ciao for now.
Catch you later, Matt. Cheers, guys. Ciao.